She collapsed outside the courtroom on her divorce day, broken, shattered, and alone. A billionaire who was there for his own divorce case saw her fall and, without thinking twice, lifted her in his arms. He rushed her to the hospital, his heart trembling. When the doctor asked about his relationship with her, he held her hand and said, with tears in his eyes, "She is my wife." Her ex cried, "I lost a queen. Hi, my loyal, greatest and most powerful family who is my strength. Welcome back to Mr. Peter's Stories. May the Almighty bless your hearts with peace, your homes with light, and your paths with endless strength. May every woman shine with dignity and grace, every man walk with wisdom, and every child grow in joy and love. May no pain touch your soul and no sorrow steal your smile. I pray for your health, your success, and your family's happiness. May every sunrise bring you hope, every night bring you calm, and every step draw you closer to God's blessings. If your heart is true, like the video, if your love is real, write, "I am with Mr. Peter." Debbie May had always believed that love could survive anything, until the day she found lipstick stains on her husband's collar that weren't hers. The stain was crimson, bold and unapologetic, smeared across the white fabric like a declaration of war. Debbie stared at it, her hands trembling as she held the shirt up to the light streaming through their bedroom window. Her mind raced, searching for innocent explanations, but her heart already knew the truth. She had found his phone that morning, left carelessly on the kitchen counter while he showered. The screen had lit up with a message that made her blood run cold. "Last night was perfect. Can't wait to see you again." The words blurred through her tears as she scrolled through weeks of messages, each one a knife twisting deeper into her chest. Pictures, plans, promises, everything she thought they had built together was a lie. When John Roche walked into the bedroom, towel around his waist, water still dripping from his hair, he froze. His eyes went from her face to the shirt in her hands, and something shifted in his expression. Not guilt, not shame, just cold resignation. "How long?" Debbie's voice broke on the words. John didn't answer immediately. He walked to the closet, pulled out clothes, and began dressing as if this were just another morning. The casual cruelty of it shattered something inside her. "How long, John?" she demanded, her voice rising. "Does it matter?" He buttoned his shirt without looking at her. "Does it matter?" she repeated, incredulous. "We've been married for years. We built a life together. I loved you with everything I had, and you're asking me if it matters." He finally turned to face her, and the emptiness in his eyes was worse than any anger could have been. "I don't love you anymore, Debbie. I haven't for a while." The words hit her like a physical blow. She stumbled backward, catching herself on the edge of the bed. "You don't mean that?" "We can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can—" "I don't want to fix it." His voice was flat, emotionless. "I'm in love with someone else." Debbie felt the room tilt. "Who is she?" "It doesn't matter who she is. It matters to me," Debbie screamed, tears streaming down her face. "I deserve to know who destroyed my marriage." John grabbed his jacket from the chair, his movements efficient and detached. "I want a divorce." "No." Debbie crossed the room, grabbing his arm desperately. "Please, John, don't do this. We can work through this. I can forgive you. We can start over." He pulled his arm free, and the look he gave her was almost pitying. "I don't want you to forgive me, Debbie. I want out." She dropped to her knees, sobs racking her body, all pride abandoned in the face of losing everything she'd ever loved. "Please, I'm begging you. Don't leave me. I'll be better. I'll change. Just tell me what you need." "I need you to let me go." "I can't." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I love you. I know." He stepped over her, walking toward the door. "That's why this is so hard. John!" She crawled after him, desperation stripping away every shred of dignity. "Please, remember when we first met? Remember our wedding day? You promised to love me forever. You stood in front of everyone we knew and made vows." He paused at the doorway, his back to her. For a moment she thought she'd reached him. Then he spoke, and his words destroyed her completely. "I was wrong. I'm sorry." The door closed behind him with a soft click that echoed like thunder in the silence. Debbie collapsed onto the floor, her screams of anguish filling the empty house. She stayed there for hours, curled into herself, crying until she had no tears left. When night fell, she dragged herself to their bed. No, not their bed anymore. Just her bed now. She pulled his pillow to her chest, breathing in the fading scent of him, and wondered how you survive when the person who promised to be your everything becomes nothing. The divorce papers arrived within days. John had already hired a lawyer, already divided their assets, already planned his exit strategy, while she was still trying to figure out how to breathe without him. She called him, texted him, left voicemails begging him to reconsider. Each message went unanswered. When she showed up at his office, security turned her away. He had blocked her from his life as efficiently as he had blocked her from his heart. Her friends tried to help, but their words felt hollow. You deserve better. He wasn't worth it. Time heals all wounds. None of them understood that she didn't want better. She wanted him. She wanted the life they'd built, the future they'd planned, the love she'd believed in with her whole soul. The day before the courthouse appointment, Debbie stood in their bathroom, her bathroom now, and barely recognized the woman staring back at her. Hollow eyes, sunken cheeks, the shell of someone who used to believe in forever. She picked up her phone one last time and typed a message to John. I still love you. I'll always love you. Please don't do this. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, his response came through. I'm sorry, Debbie, but it's over. Please stop reaching out. See you tomorrow. She slid down the bathroom wall, the phone falling from her hands. Tomorrow, she would sign papers that would erase years of her life. Tomorrow, she would become nothing to the man who had been everything to her. Tomorrow, her heart would officially break in ways that could never be repaired. She didn't sleep that night. She lay in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, remembering every moment they'd shared. The first kiss, the proposal, the wedding, the quiet mornings drinking coffee together. The way he used to look at her like she was the only person in the world. When had that look changed? When had love turned to indifference? When had she become someone he needed to escape from? The questions tormented her through the endless night, but no answers came. Only pain, only loss, only the terrible knowledge that tomorrow she would have to let go of the only man she'd ever loved. As dawn broke through the windows, Debbie finally rose from the bed. She dressed carefully, choosing the blue dress John had once said he loved. Maybe he would see it and remember. Maybe something would change. Deep down, she knew nothing would change. But hope, even foolish hope, was all she had left. She looked at herself one final time in the mirror before leaving. You can survive this, she whispered to her reflection. You have to. But as she walked out the door toward the courthouse, toward the end of everything she'd believed in, Debbie May wasn't sure if survival was enough anymore. Chapter 2. The Final Day. The courthouse loomed before her like a monument to shattered dreams. Debbie sat in her car in the parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. People walked past, some hand in hand, some alone, all carrying their own stories of love and loss. She checked her phone one last time, hoping against hope for a message from John saying he'd changed his mind. Nothing. The screen remained blank, as cold and empty as her future felt. Taking a shaking breath, Debbie forced herself out of the car. Each step toward the building felt like walking through water, her body resisting the inevitable. The morning air was crisp, indifferent to the devastation happening in her heart. Inside, the courthouse buzzed with activity. Lawyers in expensive suits hurried past. Couples stood in corners having hushed, tense conversations. A woman in the corner openly wept while her attorney patted her shoulder awkwardly. Debbie wondered if that would be her in an hour. She found the correct floor, the correct room. And there, standing near the window in a sharp suit she didn't recognize, was John Roche. He looked good. Too good. Like a man who hadn't spent weeks crying himself to sleep. Like a man who had already moved on while she was still drowning in the wreckage of what they'd been. When he saw her, something flickered across his face. Was it regret, guilt, or just impatience to get this over with? Debbie. He nodded formally, like she was a business associate rather than the woman who had shared his life. John. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. We don't have to do this. We can still walk away. We can still save this. His jaw tightened. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Harder? A bitter laugh escaped her. You're ending our marriage and you're worried about it being hard for you. Before he could respond, his lawyer appeared. A sharp-eyed woman with a briefcase and an expression that suggested she'd seen this scenario 1,000 times. Mr. Roche, we're ready to proceed. The next hour passed in a blur of legal terminology and paperwork. Debbie signed where they told her to sign, her hand moving mechanically while her mind screamed in protest. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. John sat across the table, signing his own papers with quick, efficient strokes. Not once did he look at her. Not once did his hand hesitate. The judge, an older man with kind eyes that had probably witnessed countless heartbreaks, reviewed the documents. Is there any possibility of reconciliation? No, John said immediately. The judge looked at Debbie. She opened her mouth, wanting to scream yes, wanting to beg for one more chance, wanting to throw herself at John's feet and plead. But the look on John's face, cold, distant, already gone, stopped her. No, she whispered. Very well. By the power vested in me by the state, I hereby grant this dissolution of marriage. You are no longer husband and wife. The gavel came down with a sharp crack that echoed in Debbie's chest. It was done. Years of love, of memories, of building a life together, ended with the strike of wood on wood. John stood immediately, already heading for the door. Debbie sat frozen, unable to process what had just happened. John, wait! She stumbled after him into the hallway. Please, just talk to me for a minute. He stopped, turning to face her with barely concealed frustration. What is there to say, Debbie? Her voice broke. I need to understand. Was I not enough? What did I do wrong? For the first time that day, something almost human crossed his face. You didn't do anything wrong. We just grew apart. No, she shook her head violently. No, you don't get to say that. You chose to leave. You chose someone else. You destroyed us. Don't you dare act like this just happened, Debbie. Do you even care? Tears streamed down her face openly now. Do you feel anything at all? Or did you stop loving me so completely that watching me break doesn't even touch you? John's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and Debbie saw the slight smile that tugged at his lips before he caught himself. Her stomach dropped. That's her, isn't it? Debbie's voice was hollow. She's waiting for you. He didn't deny it, didn't apologize, just said quietly, I need to go. Of course you do. The words tasted like poison. Go to her. Go to your new life. Forget I ever existed. Debbie, I hope you find happiness. I really do. The casual kindness of it was worse than cruelty would have been. He hoped she found happiness, like he was wishing her well at the end of a job interview, like she hadn't given him everything she had. John walked away down the courthouse hallway without looking back. Debbie watched him go, her entire body trembling with the force of her grief. He pushed through the exit doors and disappeared into the sunlight beyond, and she knew with absolute certainty that she would never matter to him again. She needed air, needed to get out of this building that had witnessed the death of her dreams. Debbie stumbled toward the exit, her vision blurring with tears. Outside, the day was beautiful, sunny, warm. The world continued turning, indifferent to her devastation. People walked past, going about their lives, while hers lay in ruins. Her chest tightened. The air suddenly felt too thick to breathe. The ground seemed to tilt beneath her feet. Ma'am, are you all right? A stranger's voice, concerned, distant. Debbie tried to answer, but no words came. The courthouse steps swam before her eyes. Her knees buckled. She felt herself falling, the concrete rushing up to meet her. And then, nothing. Darkness swallowed her whole, merciful and complete. She didn't see the man who had just exited the courthouse behind her. his own divorce papers still fresh in his hand, his own heart shattered from losing the woman he loved that very morning. She didn't see Michael. Paul freeze when he spotted her collapsing. She didn't see him. Drop his briefcase and run. All she knew was darkness, and in that darkness, she didn't have to feel the pain of losing John anymore. Inside the courthouse, in a different courtroom on a different floor, Michael Paul had just signed away his own marriage. The woman he had loved with everything in him had chosen another man. He had begged, pleaded, promised to change, and she had looked at him with pity and said no. He walked out of that courtroom a hollow shell, wondering how he would survive the loss. And then he saw Debbie May collapse on the courthouse steps, and something inside him, something he thought had died that morning, roared back to life. Without thinking, without hesitating, Michael sprinted down the steps. A woman was falling, and he couldn't let her hit the ground alone. Chapter 3. The Stranger's Promise. Michael Paul didn't think. His body moved on instinct, adrenaline overriding the numbness that had consumed him moments before. He sprinted down the courthouse steps, pushing past stunned onlookers, and dropped to his knees beside the unconscious woman. "Call an ambulance," Ibrahim shouted to the growing crowd. "Someone call for help!" Up close, he could see the tears still wet on her face, the way her fingers clutched the divorce papers that had fallen beside her. He didn't need to read them to understand. Her pain was written in every line of her body, the same pain that was tearing him apart inside. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" He gently touched her shoulder, checking for a pulse at her neck. It was there, steady but weak. Relief flooded through him. "You're going to be okay. Help is coming." A security guard from the courthouse knelt beside him. "Do you know her?" "No." Michael looked at the woman's face, peaceful in unconsciousness, in a way it probably hadn't been in weeks. "But she needs help." The ambulance arrived with sirens wailing. Paramedics rushed over with equipment and questions Michael couldn't answer. He didn't know. Medical history, no idea. Emergency contacts? Nothing. "We need to transport her now," the lead paramedic said. "Are you family?" Michael looked at the woman being loaded onto the stretcher, at the divorce papers scattered on the steps, at the complete absence of anyone who cared whether she lived or died. His recent ex-wife had family surrounding her, supporting her. This woman had no one. "I'm coming with her," he stated. "Sir, only family. I'm her husband." The lie came out smooth and absolute. The paramedic studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Get in." Michael climbed into the ambulance, his own briefcase and divorce papers forgotten on the courthouse steps. As the vehicle raced through traffic, sirens blaring, he sat beside the stretcher and watched the monitors tracking her vitals. Why was he doing this? He didn't know her. He had his own devastating loss to process. But something about seeing her fall, about the raw pain etched into her features, had cracked through his own grief. Maybe saving her was a way to save himself. Maybe helping someone else would make his own agony bearable. At the hospital, chaos erupted. Nurses and doctors swarmed, asking questions Michael couldn't answer. He stayed close, refusing to be pushed aside, his presence as her supposed husband giving him authority to remain. They wheeled her into an examination room. Michael waited outside, pacing the sterile hallway, his mind racing. What was he doing? This was insane. He should leave, go home, process his own divorce, grieve his own loss, but his feet stayed planted. A doctor emerged after what felt like hours, young, tired-looking, with the efficient manner of someone who delivered difficult news regularly. "Mr. Dash. Paul, Michael Paul." He extended his hand automatically. "Mr. Paul, your wife is stable." The collapse was due to severe emotional distress combined with physical exhaustion. "However, we found something in her blood work that you should know about." Michael's heart rate kicked up. "What is it?" "Your wife is pregnant, approximately 2 months along." The words hit Michael like a freight train. Pregnant. He looked through the window at the woman lying in the hospital bed, still unconscious, and the full tragedy of her situation crystallized. "Divorced today," carrying her ex-husband's child, alone. Does she know? Michael heard himself ask. I don't believe so. We'll discuss it with her when she wakes up. The doctor paused. Given the circumstances of her collapse and the pregnancy, we'd like to keep her overnight for observation. Is there any family we should contact? Michael thought of the courthouse steps, the complete absence of anyone rushing to her aid. No, there's no one. I see. The doctor made notes on his tablet. Well, congratulations on the baby. I'll have the nurses get you set up in the room with her. As the doctor walked away, Michael stood frozen in the hallway. What had he just done? He'd lied about being her husband. He'd inserted himself into a stranger's life at her most vulnerable moment. This was crazy. He should leave. Explain the situation to the staff. Walk away. Instead, he pushed open the door to her room. She lay in the hospital bed, an IV in her arm, monitors beeping steadily. Her face, even in sleep, held traces of anguish. Michael pulled a chair beside the bed and sat down heavily. I don't know why I'm here, he said quietly to her unconscious form. I don't know you. I don't know your name. But I couldn't leave you on those steps. Maybe because someone left me today too. Maybe because I know exactly what kind of pain makes a person collapse like that. He leaned back in the chair, exhaustion suddenly overwhelming him. His own divorce, his own heartbreak, the woman he'd loved choosing someone else. It all crashed over him in waves. My wife, ex-wife now, told me this morning that she never really loved me, that she was just too afraid to be alone. Then she signed the papers and walked straight into another man's arms. His voice cracked. I watched her drive away with him. Watched the life I thought we'd have disappear. He scrubbed his hands over his face, feeling tears he'd been holding back all day finally break free. So maybe I'm here because misery loves company. Or maybe I'm here because someone should have caught me when I was falling too. The steady beep of monitors was the only response. Michael must have dozed off, because when he jerked awake, it was dark outside the window. A nurse was checking the woman's vitals. She should wake up soon, the nurse said kindly. You should probably be here when she does. She'll be confused and scared, Michael nodded, straightening in his chair. His back ached from the uncomfortable position, but he didn't leave. When the woman's eyelids finally fluttered open, Michael leaned forward. Hey, you're okay. You're in the hospital. You're safe. Her eyes struggled to focus. When they finally found his face, confusion clouded them. Who? My name is Michael Paul. You collapsed outside the courthouse. They brought you here. She tried to sit up, wincing. I don't understand. Just take it slow. You've been through a lot. Memory seemed to flood back. Her hand flew to her mouth. The divorce? John? Oh God, it really happened. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Michael reached for the tissue box, offering it to her silently. Why are you here? She asked, her voice hoarse. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. I know enough. Michael met her eyes. I was at the courthouse today, too. For the same reason, understanding dawned in her expression. You're divorced. As of this morning, he tried to smile, but it felt wrong on his face. So when I saw you fall, I guess I couldn't walk away. She studied him through her tears. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. There's something else you need to know. Michael braced himself. The doctors ran some tests. You're pregnant. The color drained from her face. I'm what? About 2 months along, they said. She stared at him in shock, then her hands moved to her stomach. No. This can't be happening. John and I, we stopped. We weren't. Her breathing quickened, panic setting in. He's going to think I trapped him. He's going to hate me even more. Hey, Michael moved closer. Breathe. Just breathe. You're okay. I'm not okay. Her voice rose. I'm pregnant with my ex-husband's baby. The man who doesn't want me. The man who chose someone else. How is any of this okay? She dissolved into sobs, her whole body shaking. Michael did something he couldn't explain. He reached out and took her hand. She gripped it like a lifeline, this stranger who had appeared in her darkest moment. When her tears finally subsided, she looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. I don't even know your name. Michael Paul. Debbie. Debbie May, she laughed bitterly. Though I guess it's just May now. No more Roche. Debbie. Michael squeezed her hand gently. Listen to me. I know we just met. I know this is all insane. But I'm going to make you a promise right now. What? You're not alone. Not anymore. She shook her head. You don't owe me anything. You should go home. Deal with your own life. My life is currently an empty apartment and memories I'm trying to forget. Michael surprised himself with his honesty. So how about we make a deal? You let me help you through this, and maybe helping you will help me survive what I'm going through. Why would you do that for a stranger? Because someone should have done it for me. The truth of it settled in his chest. Because I know what it feels like to be discarded by someone who promised forever. And because that baby you're carrying deserves better than this mess. Debbie's tears fell silently. I don't understand you. You don't have to. Not yet. Michael stood up. But I'm not leaving you here alone. And when they discharge you, you're not going back to an empty house to face this by yourself. You're crazy. Probably. He almost smiled. But I'm also serious. Will you let me help you? Debbie looked at this stranger who had appeared out of nowhere, who had carried her to safety, who was offering her something she desperately needed but didn't deserve. She should say no, should tell him to leave, should handle this disaster on her own. Instead, she heard herself whisper, "Okay." Michael nodded. "Okay, get some rest. I'll be right here." As Debbie's eyes drifted closed, exhausted from emotion and trauma, Michael settled back into his chair. Through the window, the city lights sparkled in the darkness. He didn't know why he was doing this, didn't know where this path would lead. But for the first time since his wife had walked away that morning, Michael Paul felt something other than devastating loss. He felt purpose, and for now, and that was enough. Chapter 4. Broken souls under one roof, the hospital discharged. Debbie, the next afternoon, with a list of instructions for prenatal care and a prescription for vitamins she couldn't imagine affording. She sat on the edge of the bed, dressed in the same clothes she'd worn to the courthouse, and felt the weight of her new reality crushing down on her. Pregnant, divorced, alone. Michael appeared in the doorway, having stepped out to handle the paperwork. Ready? Ready for what? Debbie's laugh was hollow. I have nowhere to go. Yes, you do. He picked up the small bag the nurses had given her. You're coming home with me. Michael, no. I can't impose on you like that. You're not imposing. I'm offering. He met her eyes steadily. Debbie, where will you go? Back to the house you shared with him? Surrounded by memories of what you lost while you're carrying his child? She flinched at the brutal honesty of it. I'll figure something out. Or you could accept help from someone who actually understands what you're going through. Michael's voice softened. Look, my place is huge. Too big for one person, honestly. You can have your own space, complete privacy, just until you get back on your feet. Why are you doing this? It was the question she kept asking because his kindness made no sense. Because yesterday morning, I stood in a different courtroom and signed papers ending my marriage. The woman I thought I'd spend my life with chose someone else. His pain was raw, visible. I went home to an empty house and realized I couldn't remember who I was before her. So maybe I'm doing this because helping you gives me a reason to get out of bed tomorrow. The vulnerability in his confession broke something open in Debbie's chest. We're quite a pair, aren't we? Am I disasters, recognizing disasters? A sad smile crossed his face. So what do you say? Will you let this disaster help you? Debbie looked at the hospital room, then at the man who had saved her life. A stranger who somehow felt less terrifying than facing her empty future alone. Just for a little while, until I figure things out, however long you need. The drive to Michael's house happened in relative silence, both of them lost in their own thoughts. When they pulled up to the estate, Debbie's breath caught. The property was stunning. Sprawling grounds, immaculate gardens, a house that looked like something from a magazine. You live here alone? She asked. I did. My ex-wife got our apartment in the city. I got this place. Michael stared at the house like it represented everything he'd lost. We bought it together. Planned to fill it with children someday. Now it's just me and too many empty rooms. They sat in the car for a moment, neither moving. We don't have to go in yet, Michael said quietly. We can just sit here if you need to. No, Debbie opened her door. I'm tired of running from reality. Inside, the house was beautiful but sterile, like a showroom no one actually lived in. Michael led her through the foyer, past a living room with pristine furniture, to a staircase that curved elegantly upward. Guest room is this way. He climbed the stairs, Debbie following. It has its own bathroom, plenty of closet space. Make yourself at home. The room was lovely. Soft cream walls, a large comfortable bed, windows overlooking the gardens. Debbie set down her small bag and felt her throat tighten. I don't have anything. Clothes, toiletries, nothing. Everything is still at the house and I can't go back there. We'll figure it out. Tomorrow we can get whatever you need. Michael paused in the doorway. For tonight I'll find you something to sleep in. And you must be hungry. When's the last time you ate? Debbie tried to remember and couldn't. I don't know. Come on. He gestured for her to follow. Kitchen's downstairs. In the massive kitchen with its marble countertops and professional-grade appliances, Michael rummaged through cabinets. I'm not much of a cook, but I can manage the basics. How about soup? You don't have to. Debbie. He turned to face her. Stop saying I don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. Let me do this. She nodded, too exhausted to argue, and settled onto a stool at the kitchen island. Michael moved around the kitchen with surprising efficiency, heating soup, making toast, brewing tea. My mom taught me, he said, catching her watching him. She said a man who couldn't feed himself was helpless, so she made sure I learned the basics before I left home. Where is she now? Gone. Pain flickered across his face. Both my parents died when I was young. Car accident. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. He set a bowl of soup in front of her. Eat doctor's orders. The soup was simple but warm, and Debbie realized she was starving. Michael sat across from her with his own bowl, and for a while they just ate in companionable silence. Tell me about him, Michael said finally. John? Debbie's spoon stopped midway to her mouth. Why? Because holding it in is killing you. I can see it, he met her eyes. And because I'm the only person in your life right now who won't judge you for still loving someone who hurt you. The permission to speak about John, to not pretend she was fine, broke something open. I met him at a bookstore. He was reaching for the same novel I was, and our hands touched, and he smiled at me like I was the most interesting person he'd ever seen. Her voice went distant with memory. We talked for hours that day. About books, about dreams, about everything and nothing. What happened? I don't know. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Somewhere along the way, I stopped being interesting. Started being background noise. He worked late, went out with friends, found reasons not to be home. I thought I was imagining it. That I was being paranoid or needy. She laughed bitterly. Turns out my paranoia was just reality trying to warn me. When did you find out about the affair? I found his phone. Saw the messages. The photos. Her hands clenched. I confronted him, and he didn't even try to deny it. Just said he didn't love me anymore. Like it was that simple. Like years of marriage could just evaporate. Michael's jaw tightened. Oh, what did you do? I begged. Shame colored her voice. I got on my knees and begged him to stay. Told him I'd change, I'd be better, I'd do anything. And you know what he said? He said that's why this is so hard. Like my love for him was a burden he had to carry. He's an idiot. He's in love with someone else. Someone more exciting, more beautiful, more everything I'm not. Debbie pushed her soup bowl away, appetite gone. And now I'm pregnant with his baby and he doesn't even know. Probably wouldn't care if he did. You're going to tell him? I don't know. Should I? She looked at Michael desperately. He has a right to know, doesn't he? But what if he thinks I'm trying to trap him? What if he demands She couldn't finish the sentence. Hey. Michael reached across the island, taking her hand. "No what-ifs tonight. Tonight you just survived the worst day of your life. That's enough." Debbie clung to his hand, this lifeline from a stranger who somehow understood. "Tell me about her." "Your ex-wife." Michael's expression shuttered. "Her name was Emma. We met through mutual friends, fell hard and fast. She was brilliant, beautiful, everything I thought I wanted." He pulled his hand back, rubbing his face tiredly. "I gave her everything. Built this house for her. Rearranged my whole life around making her happy. What went wrong? I wasn't enough. Or maybe I was too much. She said I suffocated her with my attention. Said she needed space to figure out who she was." His laugh was harsh. "Turns out who she was included being with someone else. Someone more spontaneous, less intense. Her words. Did you know about him?" "No, she kept it hidden until she was sure. Then she sat me down and explained very calmly that she'd fallen for someone else and wanted a divorce. Like she was telling me about a career change." The pain in his voice was palpable. "I begged too, Debbie. Got on my knees, just like you did. Promised to be different, to give her space, to be whoever she needed. And she looked at me with pity and said no." They sat in the shared misery of their parallel wounds. Two people destroyed by the same kind of betrayal. "We're pathetic," Debbie said finally. "Completely." Michael managed a real smile this time. "But at least we're pathetic together." Despite everything, Debbie laughed. It felt foreign, wrong almost, but also desperately needed. "How do we survive this?" "One day at a time, I guess. 1 hour at a time if we have to." Michael stood, collecting their bowls. "For now, let's get you settled. Tomorrow we'll tackle the rest." He showed her where everything was: towels, toiletries, spare clothes she could borrow. When he finally left her alone in the guest room, Debbie sat on the edge of the bed and tried to process the last day. Yesterday morning, she'd been married. Yesterday afternoon, she'd been divorced. Yesterday evening, she'd collapsed and woken to discover she was pregnant. And now she was living with a man she'd just met, in a house that was supposed to be someone else's dream. Her hand moved to her stomach, where a tiny life was growing. John's child. The last piece of a marriage that no longer existed. She should feel terrified. Should be panicking. Should be planning her escape from this insane situation. Instead, for the first time since finding that lipstick stain, Debbie May felt something other than devastating heartbreak. She felt safe, and as she climbed under the soft covers and closed her eyes, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she would survive this after all. Chapter 5. Healing in Silence. Days blurred into weeks. Debbie woke each morning in the guest room that had somehow become her sanctuary. Sunlight streaming through windows that overlooked gardens she was slowly beginning to appreciate. The house that had felt sterile and empty now felt like a refuge. Michael established a routine without making it feel like an imposition. He'd knock softly on her door each morning, ask if she needed anything, then disappear to give her space. Breakfast would be waiting downstairs when she emerged. Simple things like toast and fruit, tea instead of coffee because of the baby. They didn't talk much at first. Both were too raw, too broken. Instead, they existed in parallel, two wounded souls occupying the same space without demanding anything from each other. But slowly, the silence between them became comfortable rather than awkward. One morning, Debbie found Michael in the kitchen, staring at a frying pan like it was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Attempting scrambled eggs." Emphasis on attempting. He gestured at the pan where eggs were definitely burning. "This is why I stick to toast." Debbie couldn't help but smile. "Move over." "You don't have to." "I know. Move." She took over the stove, scraping the burnt eggs into the trash and starting fresh. Michael watched her work, and something about the domestic simplicity of it eased a knot in her chest she hadn't realized was there. "You're good at this," he observed. "My grandmother taught me. She said cooking was meditation. You can't worry about your problems when you're focused on not burning the eggs." Debbie plated the eggs, adding herbs she'd found in the fridge. Apparently, she was wrong about that part. They ate together at the kitchen island, and Michael made a sound of appreciation. "These are incredible, way better than my charcoal attempts." The bar was pretty low. He laughed, and the sound surprised them both. When had they last laughed? When had joy been something other than a memory? After breakfast, Michael cleared his throat. "I was thinking of taking a walk in the gardens. Want to join me? Fresh air is supposed to be good for the baby." Debbie hesitated. The idea of existing beyond the house felt overwhelming, but Michael's expression was hopeful without being pushy, and something about that made her nod. "Okay, just for a little while." The gardens were more extensive than Debbie had realized. Stone pathways wound through beds of roses, past a small fountain under trellises covered in climbing vines. Michael walked beside her slowly, matching her pace without comment. "Emma designed these gardens," he said quietly. "Spent hours planning every detail. Now they're just here, growing without her. Do you hate them? Because they remind you of her?" I thought I would." Michael touched a rose bloom gently. "But they're still beautiful, even if she's gone. Maybe that's the lesson. Beautiful things don't stop being beautiful just because the person who created them walked away." Debbie thought about that, about the life growing inside her, created with John when she thought they had forever. "You think that applies to everything?" "I think it has to. Otherwise, how do we survive?" He looked at her. "Your baby is going to be beautiful, Debbie. Even if John is too blind to see it." Tears pricked her eyes. "Haven't told him yet. About the pregnancy. Do you want to?" "I don't know. Part of me thinks he deserves to know. Another part thinks he gave up any right to know when he walked away." She wrapped her arms around herself. "What if he tries to take the baby from me? What if he uses this to hurt me more? Then I'll stand between you and him." Michael's voice was firm. "You're not alone in this, remember?" They continued walking, the conversation drifting to safer topics. Michael told her about the house, about how he'd bought it thinking he'd fill it with family. Debbie told him about her childhood, about dreams she'd abandoned when she married John. "What did you want to be?" Michael asked. "Before him, a teacher. I wanted to work with kids, help them love reading the way my grandmother helped me." Debbie smiled sadly. "John thought it was impractical, that teachers didn't make enough money, that I should focus on supporting his career instead. And you listened to him." "I loved him. I thought love meant sacrifice." She shook her head. "Turns out I was just making myself smaller to fit into his life." "You're not small, Debbie. You're just compressed, like a spring waiting to expand again." The metaphor was odd, but somehow perfect. She looked at Michael with new appreciation. "You're different from what I expected." "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Someone smoother, more put together? You're kind of a mess." "I'm a complete mess," he agreed cheerfully. "But I'm a well-intentioned mess." They walked until Debbie grew tired, then headed back to the house. As they approached the door, she impulsively reached out and squeezed his hand. "Thank you for the walk." "For everything," Michael squeezed back. "Thank you for not burning the eggs." That night, Debbie had another nightmare about John. She woke gasping, tears streaming down her face, the ghost of his cold dismissal haunting her. Before she could spiral into the familiar darkness, there was a soft knock on her door. "Debbie, you okay?" She considered lying, saying she was fine. Instead, she said no. Michael entered carrying 2 mugs of tea. He set one on her nightstand and settled into the chair near the window. He didn't ask what was wrong, didn't offer empty platitudes. Just sat there in the darkness, a steady presence. "Tell me about your mom," Debbie said finally, needing to think about anything other than her own pain. Michael's face softened. She was amazing, strong, funny, always knew exactly what to say to make things better. "When my dad died in the accident, he was driving, hit by a drunk driver. She held our family together even though she was shattered." "How did she die?" "Heart gave out a few years later. Doctor said it was a medical condition, but I think she died of a broken heart. His voice cracked slightly. She loved my dad so much. Losing him broke something in her that never healed. I'm sorry. Me too, Michael sipped his tea. But she taught me something important before she died. She said that love, real love, doesn't destroy you. It makes you bigger, stronger, more yourself. If you're getting smaller, if you're losing pieces of who you are, that's not love. That's something else. Debbie absorbed his words. John made me smaller. Emma made me smaller too. I twisted myself into knots trying to be what she wanted until I didn't recognize myself anymore. Michael looked at her. We gave our love to people who didn't know how to hold it. That's their failure, not ours. Then why does it hurt so much? Because we loved anyway, even when they didn't deserve it. He finished his tea. But just because we loved the wrong people doesn't mean we loved wrong. It means we're capable of the kind of love that someone else will be grateful for someday. You really believe that? I have to. Otherwise, what's the point of surviving this? They sat in comfortable silence until Debbie felt her eyelids growing heavy. Michael stood to leave, but she stopped him. Will you stay? Just until I fall asleep. I don't want to be alone with my thoughts. Of course. Michael settled back into the chair, and Debbie closed her eyes. His presence was an anchor, keeping her from drifting into the dark waters of her grief. As sleep claimed her, she heard him humming softly, an old lullaby his mother had sung to him. This became their pattern. Nightmares would wake her, and Michael would appear with tea and presents. Some nights they talked. Some nights they sat in silence. But she was never alone. During the days, they coexisted with increasing ease. Michael began working from home, setting up an office in one of the spare rooms. Debbie started venturing into other parts of the house, slowly claiming space. One afternoon, she found him in the garage surrounded by painting supplies. "What are you doing?" she asked, trying to remember how to do this. "I used to paint before Emma told me it was a waste of time." He gestured at a blank canvas. "Figured it was time to reclaim old hobbies. Can I watch?" "Only if you don't judge." Debbie pulled up a stool as Michael began mixing colors. His strokes were hesitant at first, then grew more confident. What emerged was abstract but beautiful, swirls of blue and gray that somehow captured the feeling of grief. "It's perfect," Debbie breathed. "It's terrible, but it's mine." Michael stepped back, studying his work. "That's enough for now." Inspired, Debbie started reading again, something she'd abandoned during her marriage when John complained about her wasting time with books. She'd curl up in the window seat of her room, losing herself in stories of people whose problems made hers feel less insurmountable. Michael would find her there, so absorbed she didn't hear him approach. He'd leave fresh tea and snacks without disturbing her, and she'd discover them later with a note, "For the baby. Also for you." Slowly, imperceptibly, they both began to heal. Debbie's pregnancy progressed. Her stomach began to round, a visible reminder of the life growing inside her. Michael helped her shop for maternity clothes, never once making her feel embarrassed or uncomfortable. He'd hold up options and ask her opinion, treating it like an adventure rather than a chore. "How do you know so much about women's clothes?" she asked, watching him expertly sort through sizes. "I don't, but I know how to read tags and ask sales associates for help." He grinned. "Also YouTube tutorials. Don't underestimate the power of the internet." One evening, they were sitting in the living room, Michael painting, Debbie reading, when she felt it. A flutter, so light she almost missed it. "Oh!" Her hand flew to her stomach. Michael's brush froze mid-stroke. What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. The baby just..." She felt it again, stronger this time. The baby kicked. Michael crossed the room in seconds. "Really?" "Here." Without thinking, Debbie grabbed his hand and pressed it against her stomach. "Wait for it." They stood frozen, waiting. Then there, a tiny bump against Michael's palm, his face transformed with wonder. "Hello there, little one." His voice was soft, reverent. "I'm Michael. I'm going to take care of you and your mama." Tears streamed down Debbie's face as she watched this man, who owed her nothing, fall in love with her unborn child, a child that wasn't his. A child that was the product of her failed marriage. Michael, don't, he met her eyes. Don't say I don't have to care. Don't say this isn't my responsibility. I choose this, Debbie. I choose you both. Something shifted between them in that moment. A deepening of connection that went beyond shared grief. They were no longer just two broken people seeking refuge. They were becoming something else. Something that felt dangerously like family. That night, after Michael left her room following another nightmare session, Debbie lay awake thinking about the changes in her life. Months ago, she'd been married to John, believing in forever. Now she was divorced, pregnant, and living with a stranger. But Michael didn't feel like a stranger anymore. He felt like home. And that terrified her more than anything because she'd thought John was home too. What if she was wrong again? What if she was reading too much into Michael's kindness? What if he woke up one day and realized this was too much, that she was too broken, that saving her had been a mistake? She touched her growing belly, feeling the flutter of life inside her. "Your mama is scared, little one," she whispered. Scared to trust, scared to hope, scared to believe that maybe, just maybe, we're going to be okay. But as she drifted off to sleep for the first time since John left, Debbie May allowed herself to believe in possibility, not in forever, not in perfect endings, but in tomorrow, and the tomorrow after that, one day at a time. Chapter 6. The first kick morning sickness had finally subsided, replaced by an appetite Debbie hadn't experienced in years. She stood in Michael's kitchen experimenting with recipes, rediscovering a passion for cooking she'd forgotten she had. "Something smells incredible." Michael appeared in the doorway, hair still damp from his shower. "Cinnamon rolls. From scratch." Debbie pulled the pan from the oven, golden and perfect. "My grandmother's recipe. I haven't made these since before I married John." Michael grabbed a fork eagerly. "Why not?" He didn't like sweet breakfast. Said it was unhealthy. Made me feel guilty every time I wanted them. She drizzled icing over the warm rolls. "I can't believe I let someone's opinion stop me from doing something I loved. Emma did that to me with painting. Said it was childish, a waste of time." Michael took a bite and groaned. "These are dangerous. I'm going to eat the whole pan." "Good. The baby wants cinnamon rolls. So the baby gets cinnamon rolls." They sat at the kitchen island, eating warm rolls and drinking tea, the morning sun streaming through the windows. These moments had become Debbie's favorite. The quiet domesticity, the ease of being with someone who didn't demand she be anything other than herself. "I've been thinking," Michael said, licking icing from his fingers. "We should turn one of the spare rooms into a nursery." Debbie's hand stilled. "Michael, that's too much." "It's not too much. It's necessary. The baby needs a room, and we have plenty of space." He met her eyes. "Unless you're planning to leave?" "Are you?" "No, I don't know. I can't stay here forever." "Why not?" The question hung in the air between them. Why not? Because it was his house? Because she was imposing? Because staying meant admitting she was building a life here with him, and that terrified her. "Because this isn't my home," she said finally. "It could be." Michael's voice was gentle. "If you wanted it to be." Debbie's chest tightened. "You don't know what you're saying." "I'm a mess, Michael. I'm pregnant with another man's baby. I wake up crying most nights. I'm broken in ways I don't know how to fix." "So am I." He reached across the island, taking her hand. "So let's be broken together. Let's build something new from the pieces of what we lost." Before Debbie could respond, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and froze. "John." Michael saw her face change. "What is it?" "It's him, John." Her voice shook. "He's texting me." "What does he want?" Debbie read the message, her stomach dropping. "He says he needs to talk to me. Says it's important. He wants to meet. Do you want to see him?" "I don't know." Debbie stared at the phone like it was a snake. "Part of me does. Part of me hopes he's realized he made a mistake. But another part knows that's impossible. People don't change. What does your gut say?" "My gut says I'm terrified either way. If he wants me back, I don't know if I could trust him. If he doesn't, seeing him will just hurt all over again." She looked at Michael helplessly. What should I do? I can't answer that for you, but I can tell you that whatever you decide, I'll support you. His thumb traced circles on her hand. If you want to meet him, I'll drive you. If you want to ignore him, I'll help you block his number. Your choice. Debbie's eyes filled with tears. How are you so patient with me? Because someone should be. Michael squeezed her hand. Take your time. There's no rush. She spent the day agonizing over the decision. Michael gave her space, working in his office, checking on her occasionally, but not pushing. Finally, as evening approached, Debbie made her choice. She texted John back, "I'll meet you. Tomorrow afternoon. Public place." His response was immediate. "Thank you. Coffee shop on Maple Street?" "Fine, 3 o'clock." She set the phone down, her hands shaking. Michael appeared in the doorway as if summoned. "I'm meeting him tomorrow," Debbie said. "I have to know what he wants. I have to get closure or confirmation or something." "Okay, I'll drive you." "You don't have to." "Debbie." Michael crossed the room, kneeling in front of where she sat. "Stop saying I don't have to, I want to. You're not facing him alone." That night, sleep eluded her. Debbie tossed and turned, imagining tomorrow's meeting. Would John look different? Would he regret leaving? Would he want her back? And the terrifying question beneath all others, if he did want her back, what would she say? Around midnight, unable to stand her churning thoughts, Debbie gave up and went downstairs. She found Michael in the living room, staring at a half-finished painting. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked. "Nope," he gestured to the couch. "Join me in insomnia solidarity." Debbie settled beside him, pulling a blanket over her legs. "What are you thinking about?" "Tomorrow. You and John. Whether I'm making your life better or more complicated." He leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "What if he wants you back, Debbie? What if seeing him makes you realize you still love him?" "I do still love him. I hate that I do, but I can't just turn it off." Michael flinched slightly. "Right. But," Debbie continued, "loving him doesn't mean I should be with him. It doesn't erase what he did. It doesn't make him safe. What if he's changed? People don't change that fast. And even if he has, even if he's sorry and wants another chance..." Debbie trailed off, trying to articulate feelings she barely understood. "I'm not the same person who begged him to stay. That woman died on the courthouse steps. Who are you now?" "I don't know yet. I'm still figuring that out." She looked at Michael. "But I know I'm someone who deserves better than what he gave me." Pride flickered across Michael's face. "Yes, you do." They sat in comfortable silence, the house quiet around them. Debbie's hand rested on her stomach, feeling the occasional flutter of movement. "The baby's active tonight," she murmured. "Can I?" Michael gestured to her belly. Debbie nodded and Michael placed his hand gently on her stomach. They waited together in the dim light and then, there, a strong kick directly against his palm. Michael's face lit up with wonder. "Did you feel that?" "Hard not to. Kid's got strong legs." Future soccer player. Michael kept his hand there, and the baby kicked again, then again. "I think the baby likes me." "The baby knows you're safe." Debbie covered his hand with hers. "Thank you for being here. For all of this. I know it's insane, two divorced people playing house while I'm pregnant with someone else's baby." "It's not insane. It's survival." Michael met her eyes. "We found each other at our lowest points. Maybe that's fate or luck or just cosmic coincidence. But I'm grateful for it. Even when I'm crying in the middle of the night. Especially then. Because it means you're feeling. You're processing. You're surviving." He shifted closer. "Don't shut down your emotions for my sake, Debbie. I can handle your grief. What if I never stop grieving? And then I'll sit with you in the grief until you're ready to move forward. However long that takes." Debbie felt tears slip down her cheeks. "How did I get so lucky to find you?" "I think we found each other." Michael brushed a tear away gently. Two broken people stumbling into the same disaster and deciding to face it together. They stayed like that, his hand on her belly, the baby kicking between them, until Debbie's eyelids grew heavy. Michael helped her back to bed, tucking the blanket around her like she was something precious. "Get some rest," he whispered. "Tomorrow will be hard enough without exhaustion. Stay." She caught his hand. Just until I fall asleep. Michael settled into the chair by her bed, and Debbie closed her eyes. His presence was a comfort, a steady anchor in the storm of her emotions. As sleep finally claimed her, her last conscious thought was surprising. Tomorrow she'd see John. But it wasn't John she'd be thinking about while they talked. It would be Michael, waiting for her, ready to catch her if she fell, and somehow that changed everything. Morning came too quickly. Debbie dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that accommodated her growing belly while still making her feel confident. Michael made her breakfast even though she couldn't eat, her stomach twisted in knots. "You don't have to do this," he reminded her. "You can cancel. No, I need to face him. Need to hear whatever he has to say." She pushed eggs around her plate. "And I need to tell him about the baby." Michael's jaw tightened. "You're sure?" "He deserves to know. Even if he doesn't care, even if he walks away again, I have to give him the chance." She looked at Michael. "Is that stupid?" "It's honest. That's never stupid." The drive to the coffee shop felt endless and too short simultaneously. Michael parked across the street but didn't move to get out. "I'll wait here," he said. "But if you need me, if anything goes wrong, just text and I'll be there in seconds." Debbie nodded, trying to calm her racing heart. "What if he wants me back?" "Then you have a decision to make." Michael's voice was careful, controlled. "And whatever you decide, I'll respect it, even if I choose him." Pain flashed across Michael's face before he controlled it. "Even then, your happiness matters more than my feelings." Debbie reached over and kissed his cheek impulsively. "You're a good man, Michael Paul. Go, before you're late." She climbed out of the car on shaking legs and crossed the street to the coffee shop. Through the window she spotted John immediately. He sat at a corner table, looking anxious and disheveled, so different from the cold, composed man who'd signed their divorce papers. This was it, the moment of truth. Debbie took a deep breath, touched her belly for courage, and pushed open the door. Whatever happened next would change everything. Chapter 7. The Delivery. The confrontation with John had gone exactly as Debbie feared, and somehow worse. He didn't want her back. He wanted money. His relationship had fallen apart spectacularly, leaving him broke and desperate, and he'd hoped Debbie would help him. When she'd told him about the pregnancy, his face had drained of color before hardening into resentment. "You should have told me sooner," he'd said coldly. "I could have dealt with this." The implication that he would have pressured her to end the pregnancy had made Debbie's blood run cold. She'd walked out without another word, leaving him alone with his coffee and his consequences. Michael had taken one look at her face when she returned to the car and simply driven home, his hand finding hers and holding tight the entire way. He hadn't asked questions, hadn't pushed, just been there. That was months ago now. Debbie's belly had grown round and full, the baby active and strong. Michael had transformed a spare room into a nursery with soft yellow walls and a crib he'd assembled himself, cursing good-naturedly at the confusing instructions. John hadn't contacted her again after that day. She'd sent him one message informing him she expected nothing from him and wanted nothing from him. He'd responded with a single word: good. It should have hurt. Instead, it felt like freedom. Debbie stood in the nursery now, one hand on her aching back, the other rubbing her belly. She was tired, swollen, uncomfortable, and somehow happier than she'd been in years. "You okay?" Michael appeared in the doorway holding a glass of water. "Just Braxton Hicks again. The baby's running out of room in there." She accepted the water gratefully. "I'm ready for this to be over. Not much longer now. Doctor said any day?" As if the baby heard and decided to prove the point, Debbie felt a sharp, unmistakable pain that made her gasp. Michael was at her side instantly. What's wrong?" I think another pain, stronger this time." Debbie looked down to see water pooling at her feet. "My water just broke." Time moved strangely after that. Michael shifted into efficient mode, grabbing the hospital bag they'd packed weeks ago, helping Debbie to the car. calling the doctor while driving carefully but quickly to the hospital. "You're doing great," he kept saying. "Just breathe through it. Easy for you to say." Debbie gripped the door handle as another contraction hit. "You're not pushing a human out of your body." Fair point. At the hospital, nurses descended with wheelchairs and questions. Michael stayed glued to Debbie's side, answering what he could, deferring to her for the rest. "Are you the father?" a nurse asked. Debbie and Michael exchanged glances. Before Debbie could respond, Michael said firmly, "I'm her partner. I'm staying with her." The nurse smiled. "Of course. Right this way." They got Debbie into a delivery room and checked her progress. "You're about 5 centimeters dilated," the nurse said cheerfully. "Getting close, but you've got a few hours yet. Try to rest between contractions." Rest was impossible. The pain came in waves, each one stronger than the last. Michael held her hand through every contraction, let her squeeze until his fingers went numb, never once flinching or pulling away. "I can't do this." Debbie gasped after a particularly brutal contraction. "It hurts too much." "Yes, you can." Michael brushed sweat-soaked hair from her face. "You're the strongest person I know, Debbie. You survived your heart being shattered. You survived building a new life from nothing. You can survive this. What if something goes wrong? What if I'm not ready to be a mother? Then we'll figure it out together. You're not alone." He pressed his forehead to hers. "You're safe now. You and the baby are safe. I promise." Hours blurred together. Debbie lost track of time, lost track of everything except the pain and Michael's steady presence. He never left her side, not even when nurses offered him breaks. He held her hand, wiped her face, whispered encouragement when she wanted to give up. "You're almost there," the doctor said finally. 10 centimeters, ready to push." Terror gripped Debbie. "I'm scared." "I know." Michael positioned himself beside her head, his face close to hers. "But you've got this. And I've got you." The urge to push became overwhelming. Debbie bore down with everything she had, Michael's voice in her ear the whole time. "That's it. You're amazing. Keep going. Push after push." Pain that eclipsed everything. Michael's hand in hers, his voice keeping her grounded. "I see the head," the doctor called. "One more big push." Debbie gathered every ounce of strength she had left and pushed. The sensation of the baby leaving her body was indescribable. Pain and relief and terror and joy all at once. And then a cry. High-pitched, indignant, absolutely perfect. "It's a boy," the doctor announced. Debbie collapsed back against the pillows, tears streaming down her face. They cleaned the baby quickly, then placed him on her chest, still crying, still perfect. "Hello, Tiger," Debbie sobbed. "Hello, my beautiful boy." The baby Tiger quieted at her voice, his tiny face scrunching. He was red and wrinkled and covered in vernix, and Debbie had never seen anything more beautiful. Michael stood frozen beside the bed, staring at the baby with an expression of pure awe. Tears ran down his face unchecked. "Do you want to hold him?" Debbie asked softly. "Can I?" How did the nurse help transfer Tiger to Michael's arms? He cradled the tiny body carefully, reverently, like he was holding the most precious thing in the world. "Hey there, little guy," Michael whispered. "I'm Michael. I'm going to take care of you and your mama. That's a promise." Tiger yawned, a tiny sound, and Michael's face crumpled with emotion. "He's perfect, Debbie. Absolutely perfect." Watching Michael hold her son, John's biological son, but Michael's in every way that mattered, Debbie felt something shift deep in her chest. This man, who owed her nothing, had given her everything, had stayed through her darkest nights, had held her hand through the pain of childbirth, had fallen in love with her child before he was even born. "Michael," she said quietly. He looked up from Tiger's face. "Thank you for all of it, for saving me. You saved yourself, Debbie. I just had the honor of witnessing it." He smiled down at Tiger. "And now we get to watch this little warrior grow up." The nurse returned to take Tiger for his measurements and tests. Michael reluctantly handed him over, then turned back to Debbie. "How are you feeling?" "Exhausted, sore, terrified, happy." She laughed weakly. "All of it at once. You were incredible. I've never seen anything so brave. Michael sat on the edge of the bed, taking her hand. I'm in awe of you. Debbie felt tears well up again. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have. But I'm glad you didn't have to. When they brought Tiger back, cleaned and swaddled, Michael helped Debbie get comfortable for the first feeding. He adjusted pillows, brought water, hovered anxiously until she laughed at him. I'm fine. We're fine. Sit down before you wear a hole in the floor. Michael settled into the chair beside the bed, watching as Tiger latched on and began nursing. His expression was soft, unguarded, full of a love so profound it made Debbie's chest ache. I love him, Michael said simply. I know he's not mine biologically. I know this is complicated and messy, but I love him like he is mine. He is yours. Debbie's voice was firm. Biology doesn't matter. You're the one who's been here. You're the one who cared. You're his father in every way that counts. Michael's eyes welled with tears. You mean that? With everything I am. They sat in the quiet of the hospital room, the chaos of the world beyond locked out. Just the three of them, a family formed not by blood or tradition, but by choice and survival and love that grew from the ashes of their broken hearts. Tiger finished nursing and fell asleep in Debbie's arms, his tiny face peaceful. Michael took him carefully, walking around the room and humming the same lullaby he'd hummed to Debbie during her nightmares. You're a natural, Debbie observed. I'm terrified I'll break him. You won't, you're too careful. She watched him pace, swaying gently with Tiger. Michael? Yeah? A date to tay. I'm falling in love with you. The words came out in a rush. I know it's complicated. I know we both swore we'd never trust anyone again. But somewhere between you catching me on those courthouse steps and you holding my son like he's yours, I fell in love with you. Michael stood frozen, Tiger still in his arms. Debbie, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. You've given me so much, and I wanted you to know that you have my heart, however broken it still is. Michael carefully placed Tiger in the bassinet beside the bed, then returned to Debbie. He cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing her cheek. My heart is broken too. Shattered, really. But the pieces that are left, they're all yours. He leaned in, pressing his forehead to hers. I love you, Debbie May. I love you and I love Tiger, and I want to build a life with both of you if you'll have me. Debbie pulled him down into a kiss, soft, tentative, full of promise. When they broke apart, both were crying. We're quite a mess, she laughed through her tears. The best kind of mess. Tiger chose that moment to wake up and start fussing. Michael picked him up immediately, cradling him close. Shh, buddy. Mama needs rest. Let's give her a few minutes, yeah? He paced the room with Tiger, and Debbie watched them, her son and the man who had saved them both. Her heart, so thoroughly broken by John, had somehow found a way to heal. Not completely. Maybe it never would be completely whole again, but it was whole enough to love. And right now, that was everything. Chapter 8. Becoming a Family. The first weeks home with Tiger were a blur of sleepless nights and steep learning curves. Debbie had read all the parenting books, but nothing prepared her for the reality of a newborn who seemed determined to sleep only in 15-minute increments. Michael stepped up in ways that left Debbie speechless. He took the night shift without being asked, pacing the halls with a screaming Tiger in the early hours, singing off-key lullabies until the baby settled. He changed diapers without complaint, mastered swaddling techniques through trial and error, and could heat a bottle to the perfect temperature in his sleep. You're better at this than I am, Debbie said one exhausted morning, watching Michael expertly burp Tiger after a feeding. I'm not better. I'm just well rested because you handled the midnight feeding. He kissed Tiger's downy head. We're a team. But they weren't just a team anymore. Something had shifted since Debbie's confession in the hospital. The love between them was no longer unspoken, no longer just implied in gentle gestures. It lived in the way Michael would kiss her forehead when passing in the hallway, in how Debbie would reach for his hand when they sat together watching Tiger sleep, in the small intimacies of two people building a life together. One evening, after finally getting Tiger down for what they hoped would be more than an hour, they collapsed on the couch together. Debbie's head found Michael's shoulder naturally, his arm wrapping around her. "I never thought I'd be happy again," Debbie said quietly. "After John, I thought I was just going to survive, get through each day. And now? Now I'm happy. Actually, genuinely happy." She tilted her head to look at him. "You gave me that. We gave each other that." Michael's fingers traced patterns on her arm. "I was drowning, Debbie. Emma leaving destroyed me in ways I didn't think I could come back from. But helping you, being here for Tiger, it gave me purpose again. Is that all this is? Purpose?" "No," he shifted to face her fully. "At first, maybe, but now you're everything. You and Tiger are my whole world." Debbie kissed him softly. What had started tentative in the hospital had grown into something deeper, more certain. They'd been careful around each other at first, both afraid of moving too fast, of mistaking gratitude for love. But this wasn't gratitude. This was real. Tiger grew rapidly, hitting milestones that filled them with pride and terror in equal measure. His first smile came while Michael was making ridiculous faces, and Michael's resulting joy was so pure it made Debbie cry. "Did you see that? He smiled at me." Michael picked Tiger up carefully. "You're going to be trouble, aren't you? Going to have everyone wrapped around your tiny fingers." Debbie recorded moments like these on her phone, Michael reading to Tiger in the rocking chair, his voice gentle as he showed the baby colorful pictures. Michael giving Tiger his first bath, simultaneously confident and terrified. Michael falling asleep on the couch with Tiger on his chest, both of them peaceful. These were the memories that mattered. Not the wedding that had ended in divorce, not the promises John had broken, but these quiet, perfect moments of becoming a family. One afternoon, Debbie's phone rang with an unknown number. Her stomach clenched. Some part of her always feared it would be John, demanding to be involved in Tiger's life, now that the hard part was done. "Hello? Is this Debbie May?" An official-sounding woman's voice. "Yes?" "No, this is calling from the county clerk's office. We have documents here that need your signature regarding a name change petition for a minor child." Debbie's breath caught. "I didn't file any petition." According to our records, Michael Paul filed on behalf of Tiger May, requesting a legal name change to Tiger Paul and initiation of adoption proceedings. Debbie's hand flew to her mouth. Michael stood in the doorway, clearly having heard the conversation, looking nervous. "I'll call you back," Debbie managed, hanging up. "I'm sorry," Michael stepped into the room. "I should have asked you first, but I wanted it to be a surprise. I want to legally adopt Tiger, if you'll let me. Give him my name, be his father on paper like I am in reality." Tears streamed down Debbie's face. "You really want that? More than anything?" Michael crossed to her, cupping her face gently. "He's my son, Debbie, in every way that matters. I want the world to know it." "Yes." Debbie pulled him into a fierce hug. "Yes, adopt him. Give him your name. Be his father." They held each other, both crying until Tiger started fussing in his crib. They went to him together and Michael lifted him carefully. "Hey, little man, how do you feel about being Tiger Paul?" Michael's voice was thick with emotion. "That sound good to you?" Tiger grabbed Michael's finger, holding tight, and Debbie knew in that moment that biology meant nothing. This was Tiger's father. This was their family. The adoption process moved forward with paperwork and court dates. John had to be notified, a legal requirement that made Debbie anxious. But when the certified letter came back signed with his consent to the adoption, she felt nothing but relief. John had truly moved on, wanted nothing to do with the child he'd helped create, his loss. Their gain. The day the adoption was finalized, they celebrated quietly at home. Michael held the official papers declaring him Tiger's legal father, tears running down his face. "I'm a dad," he kept saying. "I'm actually a dad." "You've been a dad since the moment you held him in the hospital," Debbie reminded him. "I know, but now it's official." He looked at her with an expression so full of love, it took her breath away. Thank you for letting me love him, for letting me be his father. Thank you for choosing us. They spent the rest of the evening playing with Tiger, marveling at how their broken pieces had somehow formed something whole. Later that night, after Tiger was asleep and they were curled together on the couch, Michael showed her his latest painting. It was abstract but beautiful, swirls of darkness giving way to light, chaos resolving into something peaceful. "It's us," he explained, "where we started and where we are now." Debbie studied the painting, seeing their journey reflected in the brushstrokes. "It's perfect. No, we're perfect. Perfectly imperfect," she laughed. "Is that what we're calling this disaster?" "Only this disaster is the best thing that ever happened to me." Michael pulled her closer. "You and Tiger saved me, Debbie. You gave me a reason to keep going when I wanted to give up. You saved me first. Then we saved each other." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the baby monitor's gentle static, the occasional sound of Tiger shifting in sleep. This was happiness, Debbie realized. Not the fairy tale kind she'd once believed in with John, but something real and earned and infinitely more valuable. Her phone buzzed with a message. She glanced at it and froze. It was from John. "What is it?" Michael felt her tense. "John, he's texting me." Her hands shook as she opened the message. "I heard about the adoption. Congratulations. You clearly found someone better than me. I hope you're happy." Below it, another message. "I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better. Tiger's lucky to have Michael as his dad." Debbie stared at the words, waiting to feel something: anger, vindication, pain. Instead, she felt only indifference. "What did he say?" Michael asked carefully. He apologized. "Said we deserve happiness." Debbie set down her phone. "I think that's his way of finally letting go. How do you feel?" "Dear, nothing." She turned to Michael. "I feel nothing for him. No anger, no love, no regret. He's just someone I used to know." Relief washed over Michael's face. "Really? Really?" Debbie kissed him softly. "You're my present and my future, Michael Paul. John is just the past I had to survive to get here." They spent the rest of the evening in comfortable domesticity, Michael painting while Debbie read beside him, Tiger sleeping peacefully in his room. The house that had once felt like a mausoleum of lost dreams now felt like a home filled with new possibilities. As Debbie drifted off to sleep that night, Michael's arms around her, their son safe in the next room, she sent up a silent thank you to whatever force had brought them together. She had collapsed on those courthouse steps, certain her life was over. Instead, it had finally begun. Chapter 9. The Ghost Returns. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Tiger was growing fast, his personality emerging more clearly each day. He had Debbie's stubbornness and Michael's gentle nature, a combination that both delighted and exhausted them in equal measure. Michael had begun working from home more regularly, his office door always open so he could hear if Debbie or Tiger needed him. Debbie had started taking online courses to finish her teaching degree, the dream she'd abandoned for John, finally within reach again. They talked about marriage sometimes, in the abstract. Both wanted it eventually, but there was no rush. What they had was solid, real. The papers could wait. One evening, they were giving Tiger his bath together, a nightly routine that had become sacred to them. Tiger splashed happily, while Michael made boat sounds with a rubber duck and Debbie captured videos on her phone. "He's going to flood the bathroom," Debbie laughed as water splashed everywhere. "Let him. We can mop up later." Michael grinned, tickling Tiger's belly gently. These moments were everything. The simple joy of raising a child together, of building a life from nothing. Debbie had never felt more content, but contentment, she was learning, was a fragile thing. The doorbell rang the next afternoon, while Debbie was feeding Tiger his bottle. Michael was out running errands. She wasn't expecting anyone, and deliveries usually just left packages on the porch. Still holding Tiger, she went to the door and opened it. John Roche stood on the porch. Debbie's breath caught. He looked different than he had at the coffee shop, cleaner, more put together, but there was something desperate in his eyes that made her stomach clench. "What are you doing here?" Her voice came out colder than she intended. "Debbie, please, I need to talk to you." John's eyes dropped to Tiger in her arms, and something complicated crossed his face. "Is that—"
"Oh, what do you want, John?"
Debbie shifted Tiger protectively, her maternal instincts on high alert. "I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life." His words came out in a rush. "I've been trying to move on, trying to rebuild, but nothing works. Nothing fills the hole you left." Debbie felt her heart start to race. "You need to leave. Please, just hear me out." John stepped closer, and Debbie instinctively stepped back. "I was an idiot. I threw away the best thing in my life for someone who never really cared about me. You loved me genuinely, Debbie, completely, and I was too blind to see how rare that was. John, I want you back." The words hung in the air between them. "I know I don't deserve a second chance. I know I hurt you in ways that can't be easily forgiven, but I've changed. I've grown. I understand now what I lost." Tiger started fussing, picking up on Debbie's tension. She bounced him gently, trying to keep her voice steady. "You can't just show up here and expect—" "I'm not expecting anything. I'm begging." John's voice cracked. "I'm on my knees here, Debbie. I want my family back. I want to be a father to my son. I want us to try again." The word son sent ice through Debbie's veins. "He's not your son. Not legally. Not in any way that matters. He's my biological child. That has to count for something." John's desperation was palpable. "I signed those adoption papers when I was angry and confused. I made another mistake. But I'm here now, ready to be a father, ready to be a husband, ready to make this right." Debbie felt the room tilt. This was the fantasy she'd had for so long, John realizing his mistake, wanting her back. But standing here now, holding Tiger, she felt none of the joy she'd once imagined, only dread. "You need to leave," she repeated. "Think about Tiger." John's voice took on a pleading edge. "He deserves to know his real father, to have both parents. You're being selfish keeping him from me." "I'm being selfish?" Anger flared in Debbie's chest. "You walked away. You wanted nothing to do with him. You signed away your rights." "I was hurt. I wasn't thinking clearly." John ran a hand through his hair, frustration bleeding through. "But I'm thinking clearly now. We were good together, Debbie. We can be good again. We can be a family." Before Debbie could respond, she heard Michael's car pull into the driveway. Relief and fear crashed together in her chest. John saw her expression change. "That's him? The guy who swooped in and played hero." "Michael didn't swoop in. He saved me when you destroyed me." Debbie's voice shook with barely controlled emotion. "He was there for every moment you should have been there for." Michael appeared at the door, grocery bags in his arms. He took in the scene immediately, Debbie holding Tiger protectively, a strange man on the porch, tension thick in the air. "Is there a problem here?" Michael set down the groceries, his entire demeanor shifting to protective. John looked at Michael with barely concealed resentment. "I'm talking to my wife about my son." "Ex-wife," Debbie corrected sharply. "And Tiger is Michael's son. You gave up any claim you had. I gave up my rights under duress." John's voice rose. "You can't expect me to just walk away from my own flesh and blood." You already did walk away." Michael's voice was deadly calm. "You walked away from Debbie when she needed you most. You walked away from Tiger before he was even born. You don't get to suddenly decide you want to play father now that all the hard work is done. Who the hell are you to tell me about my own child? I'm the one who held Debbie's hand through delivery. I'm the one who's been up every night taking care of Tiger. I'm the one who changed diapers and gave bottles and walked the floors at 3 a.m. Michael's jaw was tight. "I'm the one who was there." "Where were you?" John turned back to Debbie, ignoring Michael entirely. "You really think he loves you? He probably just felt sorry for you, saw a damsel in distress, and wanted to play hero. But that's not real love, Debbie. What we had was real. What we had was one-sided." Debbie's voice was steady now, certain. "I loved you. You used me. There's a difference. I made a mistake.
One mistake.
Are you really going to throw away years of marriage for one mistake? You didn't make a mistake, John. You made a choice. Multiple choices. You chose to have an affair. You chose to leave me. You chose to abandon your child. Those weren't mistakes. That was who you are. People change. Not that fast. And even if you have changed, even if you're genuinely sorry, it doesn't matter. I'm not the same person you left. That woman is gone. John's face crumpled. Please, I'm begging you. Give me another chance. Let me prove I can be better. For a moment, Debbie saw the man she loved. The one who'd smiled at her in that bookstore, who'd promised forever. But that man had been an illusion, a role he'd played until he didn't want to anymore. No, she said quietly. Debbie, I need you to leave. Now. John's expression hardened. This isn't over. I have rights. I can petition the court. I can fight the adoption. I can make your life hell, Debbie. Then do it. Michael stepped between John and Debbie. But you're leaving right now, or I'm calling the police. Your choice. They stared at each other for a long moment. John must have seen something in Michael's expression that made him back down. He took a step back, then another. You're making a mistake, John said to Debbie. Both of you are. That baby deserves to know his real father. He does know his real father. Debbie's voice was firm. He's holding him right now. John's face twisted with rage and pain. Fine, have it your way. But don't come crying to me when your perfect little life falls apart. He turned and stalked to his car. They watched him drive away, neither moving until the car disappeared from view. Debbie was shaking. Michael gently took Tiger from her arms, then pulled her into an embrace. It's okay. You're okay. He's gone. But Debbie's mind was reeling. John wanted her back. John wanted to be in Tiger's life. John could fight the adoption, could drag them through court, could tear apart everything they'd built. Michael, she whispered. What if he means it? What if he tries to take Tiger? Then we'll fight him. Together. Michael's voice was steady, but Debbie heard the worry beneath it. He signed away his rights. The adoption is legal. He can't just undo that. But he's the biological father. Courts favor biological parents sometimes. Debbie felt panic rising. What if they decide Tiger should be with him? What if... Stop. Michael held her tighter. Don't spiral. We'll deal with whatever comes. But right now you're safe. Tiger's safe. We're all safe. Tiger started crying, picking up on the tension. Michael rocked him gently, humming that same lullaby, and slowly the baby calmed. But Debbie couldn't calm. Her mind kept spinning with possibilities, each one worse than the last. What if John was serious about fighting for custody? What if he convinced a judge that Tiger belonged with his biological father? What if everything she'd built here collapsed? That night, after Tiger was asleep, Debbie stood in the nursery, staring at her son. Michael appeared behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Talk to me, he said quietly. I don't know what to do. Debbie's voice broke. Part of me knows you're right, that John gave up his rights, that the adoption is final, that we're safe. But another part keeps wondering, what if he's really changed? What if he genuinely wants to be a father? Do I have the right to keep Tiger from knowing his biological father? Michael was quiet for a long moment. Is that what you want? For John to be involved in Tiger's life? No, God, no. Debbie turned to face him. But what if I'm being selfish? What if Tiger grows up and resents me for keeping him from John? Or what if Tiger grows up grateful that you protected him from someone who only wanted him when it was convenient? Michael cupped her face. John didn't want to be a father when it was hard. He doesn't get to waltz in now that the hard part is over and demand a role he never earned. But he seemed so sincere. He seemed desperate. There's a difference. Michael's thumb brushed her cheek. Debbie, I will support whatever decision you make. If you want to give John a chance, if you think that's what's best for Tiger, I'll step back. But I need you to be honest with yourself about why you'd be doing it. What do you mean? Are you considering letting John back in because you think it's what's best for Tiger? Or because some part of you still wants John to choose you? The question hit like a physical blow. Debbie wanted to deny it, to insist she was over John completely. But standing here in the nursery, with Michael's patient eyes on her, she couldn't lie. "I don't know," she whispered. "I thought I was over him. I thought what I had with you was real and solid. But seeing him today, hearing him say he wants me back, part of me wanted to believe him. Part of me wanted to say yes." Michael flinched, but didn't pull away. "Okay, okay." Debbie looked at him, confused. "That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say?" Pain flickered across his face. "That I'm not terrified I'm going to lose you? That it doesn't kill me to know you're still considering him after everything? I'm scared, Debbie. But I love you enough to let you figure this out. Michael, take some time. Think about what you really want. For you, for Tiger." He kissed her forehead. "But whatever you decide, decide because it's what you want. Not because you feel guilty, not because you're scared, not because of anyone's expectations. Choose what's real." He left her alone in the nursery. Debbie stood there, staring at Tiger, her mind a storm of confusion and doubt. She'd thought she was building a new life, a real life, a life with Michael that was based on genuine love and partnership. But now John was back, saying all the things she'd once dreamed of hearing. And she didn't know what was real anymore. What did she want? Who did she want? And then how did she make this impossible choice without destroying everything? Tiger slept peacefully, unaware of the storm brewing around him. Debbie touched his tiny hand, feeling his fingers curl around hers instinctively. "What do I do, baby?" she whispered. "How do I know what's right?" But Tiger, of course, had no answers, and as Debbie stood there in the darkness, she realized she was terrifyingly, devastatingly alone with the most important decision of her life. Chapter 10. Broken Thrones and New Beginnings. Debbie didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Michael stayed in the guest room, giving her space she wasn't sure she wanted. Her mind replayed John's words over and over. "I made a mistake. I want you back. I want our family." But beneath those words, she heard other things. The coldness in his voice when he'd walked away. The emptiness in his eyes when she'd begged him to stay. The casual cruelty of choosing someone else and expecting her to simply accept it. Morning came grey and heavy. Debbie found Michael in the kitchen making coffee, his movements mechanical. "I need to see him," she said. "One more time." "To know for sure." Michael's hand stilled on the coffee pot. "Okay, you're not going to argue. Would it change your mind?" He turned to face her, and the exhaustion in his eyes broke her heart. "You need to figure this out, Debbie. I can't do it for you." She contacted John through text, agreeing to meet at a park that afternoon. Michael offered to watch Tiger, his face carefully neutral. As Debbie left the house, she looked back to see him holding their son, and something cracked in her chest. John was waiting on a bench when she arrived, looking hopeful in a way that made her stomach twist. He stood when he saw her. "Debbie, thank you for coming. You said you changed." She didn't sit down. "Prove it. Tell me why you really want me back." John seemed taken aback by her directness. "Because I love you. Because I made a terrible mistake." "No." Debbie's voice was firm. "Tell me the truth, not what you think I want to hear. The actual truth." He faltered, and in that moment she saw it. The calculation behind his eyes, the desperation that had nothing to do with love. "The woman you left me for," Debbie said slowly. "She took everything, didn't she? Your money, your connections. And now you're alone and broke, and you thought coming back to me would solve your problems. That's not... Don't lie to me. Not anymore." She stepped closer. "You don't love me, John. You never really did. You loved having someone who worshipped you, who made you feel important. But actual love, partnership, seeing me as an equal, you never wanted that." John's face hardened. "And you think that guy does? He's just using you, Debbie. Once the novelty wears off, once you're not a damsel in distress anymore, he'll leave too." Maybe he will. The possibility hurt, but she said it anyway. "But at least he sees me, actually sees me. When was the last time you asked me what I wanted, John? What I dreamed about? What made me happy? No, you can't even remember, can you?" Tears streamed down her face, but they weren't tears of heartbreak anymore. They were tears of clarity. "I spent years making myself smaller for you, giving up my dreams, pretending to be whoever you needed me to be. And it was never enough because you didn't want a partner. You wanted an audience. Debbie and Tiger. Her voice turned cold. You don't want to be his father. You want to possess him, to use him as leverage to get what you want. But he's not yours anymore, John. He belongs to himself and to people who actually love him. I'm his father. No, Debbie's voice was steady now, certain. You're the man who didn't want him. Michael is his father. Michael is the one who earned that title every single day. John's desperation turned to anger. So that's it? You're choosing him over me? Over your child's real father? I'm choosing myself. The words felt like freedom. I'm choosing the life I've built. The life where I'm not constantly afraid of losing someone's love. The life where I'm enough exactly as I am. She turned to walk away, but John grabbed her arm. You can't do this. I won't let you. Let me go, John. Her voice was ice. I'll fight you in court. I'll get custody. I'll destroy everything you've built with him. Debbie looked at his hand on her arm, then into his eyes, and she saw what she'd been blind to for so long. He was small, petty, desperate. Not the man she'd built up in her mind, but just another broken person trying to fill his own emptiness by taking from others. Do it. She pulled her arm free. Take me to court. Fight for custody. Do whatever you think you need to do. But you'll lose, John, because I have proof of everything. Your abandonment, your signed consent to the adoption, your own words admitting you didn't want Tiger, so go ahead and try. Spend whatever money you have left on lawyers. It won't change the truth that you're not capable of the kind of love Tiger needs, or that I deserve. She stepped back. Goodbye, John. I hope you figure out what you're really looking for. But it's not me, and it's not my son. She walked away while he stood there stunned. And with each step she felt lighter. The ghost of who she'd been, the woman who begged and pleaded and made herself small, died there in that park. In her place stood someone new, someone stronger. When she got home, Michael was in the living room with Tiger, who was having tummy time on a blanket. Michael looked up when she entered, his expression guarded. How did it go? Oh, it's over. Debbie sat down on the floor beside them. Really, truly over. What happened? I saw him clearly for the first time. Saw what he really wanted. And it wasn't me or Tiger, it was just his own ego. She reached out to tickle Tiger's feet, making him gurgle happily. He threatened to fight us in court. Michael tensed. What did you say? I told him to try. That we have proof of everything. That he'd lose. She looked at Michael. Was I wrong? Can he actually fight the adoption? My lawyer says no. The adoption is final, his consent is on record, and he abandoned Tiger. He has no legal standing. Michael's voice softened. You're safe, Debbie. Both of you are safe. I'm sorry. The words burst out of her. I'm so sorry for doubting us, for even considering... Stop. Michael cupped her face gently. You needed to be sure. I understand that. And I'd rather you be sure now than wonder forever. I am sure. She covered his hands with hers. I choose you, Michael. Not because John doesn't want me, but because I want you. Because what we have is real. Because you see me and love me anyway. I love you because of who you are, not in spite of it. Debbie kissed him, pouring everything she felt into it. When they broke apart, Tiger made an indignant sound, demanding attention. They both laughed. He's right, Michael picked up Tiger. This is a family moment. He should be included. They sat on the floor together, Tiger between them, and for the first time in days, Debbie felt at peace. Later that evening, after Tiger was asleep, Michael pulled Debbie into the gardens. The same gardens Emma had designed, but they belonged to their story now. I have something to ask you, he said, taking both her hands. Michael, let me say this. He took a breath. I know we've both been through hell. I know we're both still healing. But these months with you and Tiger have been the happiest of my life. You taught me that broken hearts can love again. That endings can become beginnings. He knelt down and Debbie's breath caught. Let me love you the way you deserve, Debbie. Not because you need saving, but because loving you makes me whole. He pulled out a simple ring. Will you marry me? Debbie looked at this man who had caught her when she fell, who had stayed when things were hardest, who had loved her son as his own from the very beginning. This wasn't the proposal she'd once dreamed of. No grand gestures, no audience, no performance. It was real and raw and honest, just like him. Yes. She pulled him to his feet, laughing through her tears. Yes, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring on her finger, and they held each other in the garden while the evening air wrapped around them. No fireworks, no dramatic music, just two people who had survived their worst nightmares and found each other on the other side. When? Michael asked against her hair. Soon, I don't want a big wedding. Just us and Tiger and people who matter. Perfect. They married a month later in those same gardens. A simple ceremony with a handful of friends. Debbie wore a cream dress that accommodated her post-pregnancy body, and Michael wore a suit that made him look nervous and happy in equal measure. Tiger, dressed in a tiny suit that made everyone cry, was held by a friend during the ceremony. When they exchanged vows, neither spoke of forever. Instead, they promised truth and presence and choosing each other every day. Promises that felt real because they'd already been keeping them. I promise to see you, Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. Really see you, and to love everything I see. I promise to trust you, Debbie replied, to believe in what we're building, and to never make myself small again. The small crowd cheered when they kissed, and Tiger made a sound that was either approval or gas. Either way, it made everyone laugh. At the reception in their home, Debbie stood with Tiger in her arms, watching Michael talk with guests. She caught sight of their reflection in the window. A family. Not the family she'd planned, but the family she'd built from the ashes of her broken dreams. Her phone buzzed with a message. She glanced at it, expecting congratulations from a friend who couldn't make it. Instead, it was from an unknown number. I saw the photos. You look happy. I'm glad. Below it, another message appeared. I lost everything, Debbie. The house is gone. The money is gone. The woman I left you for took it all and disappeared. I have nothing left. Debbie stared at the messages, waiting to feel something, vindication, satisfaction, pity. Instead, she felt only a distant sadness for the man John had been and the life he'd wasted. She started to type a response, then stopped. What was there to say? She deleted the messages without responding and blocked the number. John Roche was her past. Michael and Tiger were her present and future. She didn't need closure from John. She'd found it within herself. Michael appeared at her side, wrapping an arm around her waist. You okay? Better than okay, she leaned into him. I'm home. Across town, John sat alone in a cramped apartment that smelled of mildew and regret. The photos of Debbie's wedding had appeared on social media through a mutual acquaintances account. She looked radiant, happy, complete. Everything he'd destroyed was now rebuilt without him. His phone sat silent. No one called anymore. His friends had disappeared when the money did. His family had given up on him after one too many broken promises. Even the woman he'd left Debbie for had vanished the moment his accounts emptied. He thought about showing up at Debbie's house again, about demanding to see Tiger, about fighting for some scrap of the life he'd thrown away. But he knew the truth. He'd signed those adoption papers willingly. He had no legal standing, and more importantly, he had no moral standing. John had made his choices, and now he got to live with them. He looked around the empty apartment, at the furniture he'd bought second-hand, at the walls that needed painting, at the life that stretched ahead of him, lonely and small. This was his throne now, built on pride and selfishness and the arrogant belief that he could discard people and suffer no consequences. His kingdom of nothing. Meanwhile, back at their home, Debbie and Michael danced in the living room while friends cheered. Tiger watched from his bouncer, his eyes following his parents with fascination. "Thank you," Debbie whispered against Michael's chest. "For what?" "For catching me. For staying. For loving us." "Thank you for letting me." He kissed the top of her head. "Thank you for teaching me that broken things can be beautiful." As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Michael carried a sleeping tiger up to his nursery. Debbie followed. Watching as Michael laid their son gently in his crib. "He's going to ask about John someday," Debbie said quietly. "I know." Michael tucked the blanket around Tiger, "And when he does, we'll tell him the truth. That his biological father wasn't ready to be a parent, but that he has a father who chose him, who loves him, who will always be there. You think that'll be enough? I think love is always enough. Not the selfish kind, not the conditional kind, but real love." He pulled Debbie close. "The kind that stays." They stood together watching Tiger sleep, two people who had collapsed under the weight of their broken hearts and somehow found the strength to rebuild. Not separately, but together. Not by forgetting their pain, but by transforming it into something beautiful. Debbie thought about the woman she'd been on those courthouse steps. Devastated, certain her life was over, unable to imagine a future without John. That woman had died there. And in her place had risen someone stronger, someone who knew her worth, someone who understood that the right kind of love doesn't make you smaller, it makes you whole. "What are you thinking?" Michael asked. "That I was so focused on keeping John that I couldn't see I was losing myself." She turned in his arms. "Thank you for helping me find her again. She was always there. You just needed space to remember." They went downstairs hand in hand, husband and wife, partners in every sense. The house that had been a mausoleum of lost dreams was now filled with the sound of their laughter, their love, their life. Outside, the gardens bloomed in the darkness. The same gardens Emma had designed, the same house John's money had helped fund. But none of that mattered anymore. The past had given way to the present, and the present was exactly where they were meant to be. Years would pass. Tiger would grow up knowing only Michael as his father. He would have his mother's determination and his father's kindness, and he would never doubt for a moment that he was loved completely. John would remain alone, his attempts to rebuild his life constantly sabotaged by his own selfishness. Some people learn from their mistakes. Others are doomed to repeat them, but that was his story, his consequence, his choice. Debbie and Michael's story was just beginning, and it would be written not in grand gestures or fairy tale endings, but in the quiet moments of choosing each other, in the hard conversations and the easy laughter, in the tears and the triumphs, in the ordinary magic of two people who refused to let their broken hearts define them. She had loved a man who didn't deserve her, but now she was loved by a man who did, and that made all the difference.